So anyway, all right, we've got to move on. All right, so on education, Matt, this is for you. Okay, so assessment of current education system, okay, what's good, what's bad, and what changes would you promote?
In this area, we're blessed. I mean, our graduation rates, our completion rates are about 96, 97%. Plano ISD has about a $500 million budget for 55,000 students, and we've got some great football stadiums in this area as well. I alluded to it earlier. When I've talked to the ISD trustees, they really have an issue with local control. There's a lot of things that are mandated down by Austin that really should be left up to our ISDs, where you and I can interface with them on a daily basis. And really, so a lot of it has to do with local control. Funding is a significant issue with schools. Again, talking about Plano ISD, and I want to be respectful for our far north Dallas contingent that is part of the district as well. But the fact is, Plano has donated or given back to recapture over $1 billion. Now that amount is decreasing. It has been in excess of $100 million. It's more in the $30 million range now. But the state needs to look at things like, when we talk about funding per student, we really need to also take a look at the cost of living across the state of Texas, right? Because the cost of living is different in Dallas than it is out in East Texas. We need to make that part of the equation. We also need to take a look at consolidating our ISDs. If you travel out to East Texas, you have an ISD of 4,000 people and its population right next to another ISD that might be 10,000. Do you really need two ISDs? So there's a lot of reform that could be made from an education perspective to improve our education. But first and foremost, is what I'm hearing from our ISD trustees is local control.
Okay, great. Glenn, can you tackle that for us?
Absolutely, and yeah, we are very blessed in our district to have a wonderful public school system in the Plano ISD. They do a great job. Both of our kids, Will and Abby, graduated from Plano West Senior High, and even my wife went all the way through 12th grades of Plano School, and it does a great job of preparing our kids for careers and for college. But we've lost $1 billion of our own tax dollars that have gone out to other areas that are not operating as efficiently, and we need to have those types of operational benchmarks and those types of best practices in districts outside of our own to make sure others are being as careful about the way they spend their tax dollars and our tax dollars as we are ourselves. And so I'm a big proponent of making sure that you have the benchmarking standards. Also, as it relates to our educators, you know, teachers, and my aunt was a career teacher in the 3rd grade, and I mean, they really are doing God's work. They're educating our kids, and they don't get paid a whole lot of money. But one of the things we need to make sure we're looking at is that teachers' performance matters. And it's not just a matter of seniority, but we're looking at how effective teachers and principals and people in the school, in the classroom, are performing to make sure we're not just simply keeping people around that are not getting the job done because they have some kind of seniority. So I think a good, effective evaluation system for our educators is good. And last is just making sure that we're pushing the dollars that we're spending to the classroom. It's not about the bigger, fancier, football stadium. Those are nice, but at the end of the day, it's about educating kids and making sure that they come out prepared for life.
Very good. Stacy?
So one of the organizations or funding boards that I forgot to mention earlier that I wanted to get rid of would be the State Board of Education. For me, again, like I mentioned earlier, education comes down to local control. So really the education begins at home with each individual and the parents. So parents need to have a lot of say into what their kids are learning and how their kids are learning. And then we really need to return power to the teachers who are in the classroom, who again know the students, work with them on a daily basis, and know that there's a lot of different ways of students learn. Not everybody likes to sit there for 45 minutes and just stare at the chalkboard, or I don't even know if they use chalkboards anymore, computer screens, or it's been a while since I've been in public school. Well, I actually still am in public school, never mind. We do still stare at screens, but I do a lot more seminars, so I actually get to see people and talk to them. But it isn't just about the funding and throwing more funding at it. And it's problematic whenever you have centralized control and planning of education, such as at the federal level, they're trying to push Common Core, and at the state level, C-Scope. Luckily, we're not implementing either of those. But the problem comes down to teachers having to teach to standardized exams. I remember when I was going to school, it was called the TOS test. Since then, it's been called the STAR test, the TEKS test, whatever else. They basically try to change it around, change the acronym, so it makes it sound like, oh, we're actually improving education. We're teaching your students and your kids something different. But really, it's just, can you pass this exam so that we can have the stats that this school needs, so that we can get funding from the state to continue teaching the next generation to pass this exam, so that we can get funding for the next. That's not serving our students. That's not, students are actually coming to college, where I'm actually a teaching assistant, and they're having trouble writing a 5-page paragraph. They can't construct sentences that make sense and that are grammatically correct, and that's extremely problematic. So definitely we need to get back to local control and having teachers and parents have a lot of say.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard everybody talk about local control and keeping decision-making at a local level. Taking it one step further, how about giving even more decision-making power to parents and families with vouchers? I'd like to hear from each of you if you support a voucher system and giving parents choices about what schools they send their kids to. So Matt, I'll start back with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have school choice within the ISD, but outside the ISD boundaries you don't. And I think giving parents the option, if they want to have their children go to a school that maybe is on the way to work versus where they're home, we should have that option. And a lot of times when we talk about school choice, though, we're trying to tackle the issue with respect to our inner city schools and the children that really want to learn that are prohibited from because of just the terrible environment that they're being raised, and giving those parents the opportunity to provide a good education for those children and a better school. I think that's paramount. I mean, I almost put that on the level of the civil rights. So it's definitely an option, of flexibility for parents and folks like us, because again, we're blessed. We have great schools up here. But I think vouchers and school choice is really a way to tackle the inner city issues that we have in our state.
But beyond the inner cities, what about people in Plano? So vouchers for everyone, or just people in the inner
Yeah, I
city?
said within an ISD boundary, you have that flexibility now, but I would expand it to outside the ISD boundary as well.
Okay, all right, great. Glenn?
I think like I said before, we're very fortunate. We have a very strong public school system in our district with the ISD. The concern I have about vouchers within our district in particular is that when you start taking those dollars out and you give parents a choice, which I think they should absolutely have the choice to send their kids to private school for educational reasons, for religious reasons, whatever it is that they want to do. But the question is should the government subsidize that? And in the case of our school district, where we have many exemplary recognized schools and a very strong school system, we need to make sure it stays very strong. For other areas where you don't have that quality of education, and just to our south in Dallas, they struggle with this regularly in the DISD. I think they're making some strides with Superintendent Miles, but they have a ways to go. They've found some success, not with vouchers, but with charter schools. Todd Williams, who was an executive at Goldman Sachs, left that career, started Uplift Education, and really has found some success with charters, providing exceptional quality education for those kids that don't have access to it otherwise in their own neighborhoods. And it's allowed a number of kids to go on to college and complete their education. And so I applaud those types of targeted efforts where kids don't have access to quality education, that there should be some competition and some choice available to the parents so that they can provide a quality education to their kids.
Okay. Stacy?
I do support school vouchers in that it does return power to the parents and it really allows them to decide where they want to send their children. But I do also understand that, should an ISD do very well, like Plano, luckily, a lot of people want to come here. And so then that might be also problematic where you have an influx of people who all want to attend this one school. So I understand that there's also some issues there that would need to be worked out in that regard. But I also did want to, I'm glad Glenn brought that up, the whole idea of charter schools, because a lot of parents are now moving to homeschooling options because of a lot of the material that they're teaching in public schools that either they don't agree with or, the whole idea of students being taught just to pretty much pass exams. So, you know, there are a lot of other options for education. I think, you know, we need to basically keep them all on the table and don't say, you know, one is better than the other, but, you know, really allow the parents to decide which one that they really want to put their child in.